Yo, it's Drewberry here. Today we're having a look at some potential nerfs and buffs I'd like to see in Marvel Snap. Finish this sentence. Quick nerf list. Dino, Moon Girl, Squirrel Girl? If you get Squirrel Girl, you're wrong. It's not Squirrel Girl. Even though, get this trash out of here. It's Nova, obviously. Obviously, it's Nova. Nova is absolutely broken. It's in every deck, pretty much. It's a one cost, so those always tend to be broken in every card game ever imaginable. So we need to nerf it. We need to nerf Nova. So these are going to be some of my nerf targets. I'm on the left-hand side here. I have what the card actually is, and on the right, I'm going to kind of outline how I think they should change it. There's a lot of ways you can go about balance. You can either murder cards and they never see play again, or you can not nerf them enough and they still stay relevant. And I think there's a middle ground there that is hard to hit, and especially hard with Marvel Snap with how the power to cost works. So anyways, we got Nova here. When this is destroyed, give your cards +2 power. My idea is that instead, when this is destroyed, give all cards +2 power. So it still holds its 2 power, 1 cost. You can still do a bunch of shenanigans with it, you know, like if you're flooding the board and you manage to destroy this with your Carnage combo, and boom, you get this big AoE buff across all your cards. But it's going to be reciprocal for your opponent, so if your opponent has a lot of cards, if they're trying to flood the deck as well, they're doing something similar, then you're not going to get that same swing that you're getting right now. It's just an absolute problem. People are double novaing on turn 5, 6, Carnage, and you're giving +4 to every card across the board. I'm talking measly boards that only have like 6 power end up getting like 4 times 4, 16. We're talking like 24 power like in a turn. Like that's just crazy, and it all stems from this one cost card. Alternatives is you could look at buffing or not buffing, rather raising his cost. But I think I like how Nova operates, the art and everything. I think it's pretty cool to have in Snap. But Nova is this big explosion, right? This big explosion of power. Why don't we keep that in the card, but we make it even bigger? An even bigger explosion. It goes to your opponents as well. I don't know. I think this is a pretty healthy change, and I'd like to see it happen. Okay, so that's Nova. So we also got, you guessed it, Moon Girl. So Moon Girl is my other nerf target. Moon Girl's just too good in almost every deck. It's, in a very strange way, it's the card that's winning you the game. It's giving you that second Devil Dinosaur. It's giving you that second Nova. It's giving you that second, you name it, you got it, right? And ultimately, I think it's just a little bit too efficient. So it's 3 cost, 3 powered, on reveal, duplicate your hand. I don't want to change how Moon Girl works, because I think the actual ability is fine and it's actually pretty fun. It's fun to have a lot of cards in your hand. If you're the opponent, you're trying to remember, okay, Moon Girl was played, I might expect some doubles. But I think it should cost more than it does. And the biggest reason I want to raise it from 3 to 4 is because of Devil Dinosaur. So the biggest combo right now is Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur. And if you Moon Girl on turn 5, then you're going to get double dinos, and it's just going to be ridiculous. This doesn't really change that per se, but at least you can't play Moon Girl and Devil Dino on the same turn to give it that crazy buff. You kind of have to pre-plan in advance, and it will also slow down your curve if you want to take that route. Also, with the Nova Carnage combo, then you'd have kind of be forced to play a little bit later. It gives your opponent turn to set up armor, hold on to Enchantress. There's just a little bit more. I don't think this kills the card at all. I think it definitely still gets played. It might not even be enough of a nerf, but I would like to see this change. Okay, and then next, pretty obvious, Devil Dinosaur. So with Devil Dinosaur, it's ongoing +2 power for each card in your hand. It's a 3 cost, 0 power. The problem I have with this card is that when you look at the 3 cost, I did a ratio video earlier. If you go back and look at that, the 3 cost minion is Cyclops. He has 4 power. 4 power. He's vanilla, no effect, no benefit, no negative effect. He's just 4 power for 3. For this to be a 3 mana 4 power card, all you have to do is have 2 cards in your hand, which is like the easiest thing to do in Snap with the amount of card generation in the game. More often than not, almost every time when I'm playing Devil Dino, I've got at least 6 or 7 cards in my hand by the end. And yes, this is incredibly countered by Enchantress, but I think all cards should have their counter. I think without the counter is where we can look at balance, and you just have too much power for your cost here. This needs to be nerfed. I thought about bringing it to 4, which could definitely be a good nerf. I think I'd like to see that one as well. That doesn't let you do too much with Moon Girl, right? Probably not 2 dinos in one game, which is just maddening. But I thought, let's go to 1 power. And here's why. So if I have set 6 cards in hand, let's say, you can get up to 7. Let's go with 7. You have 7 cards in hand and you played it, it's your last turn. You generated another card. You have 7. 14 power. That's a 3 cost 14 power. There is not a single card in Snap right now that is close to that. Not that I know of. Power, mana cost to power level efficiency. If you went to 1 power, you still have a 3 mana 7 power card. Let's look at Cyclops. 3/4. Still much better than that vanilla garbage. So I think like actually it still gets played. It's still pretty good. You can still get the benefit of the ongoing buff. So there's a few cards like Spectrum, Onslaught that could buff Devil Dino to get even more. I think it just brings this card back down to earth because right now it's just the best 3 cost card and it's in so many decks. It's a little bit obnoxious. It's the reason Enchantress is being teched in to a lot of decks. So something just has to change. And if you've noticed the trend right now in my 3 nerf targets, they all benefit from each other. They're all running the same deck practically. They're all working together. It's just the deck right now in Marvel Snap. I'd like to see other things get a little bit better, like move decks are really fun but don't have the same consistency. Discard decks, never see them, don't do well. Destroy decks, I guess kind of Nova does that, but more like I'm talking Wolverine, Sabretooth, that sort of thing. Let's see it. I want more diversity. So I think we have to hit these cards hard in this combo. And we'll see what happens after that. Those are my 3 nerfs. So let's have a look at some buffs. And before I get into this really quickly, I do just want to say I think Marvel Snap is an incredibly balanced game. And some people may really disagree, but I was having a look at the entire card list trying to think of like, would I nerf this card? Would I buff this card? Like, I don't really know. And really, those 3 are the only ones that truly stood out to me as they need a nerf, right? There's some cards that could get some buffs, but even then I'm like, well, but if you have this combination of cards or if these locations pop up, then you're going to be fine. And I think having cards being situational like this is actually quite healthy. But here's some cards that I think could use some buffs. Kraven. Kraven's probably the worst card in the game. Well, the other one's pretty close, but Kraven's pretty bad. He just feels bad getting only +1 power to move something. It's really hard to move a card to a specific location. You can always kind of move to the left quite easily, but like you might not always want to do that or be able to do that. So it's tough. You put down Kraven, a 2 cost, a 2 power that requires a setup. You probably want to get him to at least 6 to get a really good return, and it's just hard to do. There's only 4 cards that can be on a lane anyway, so really you're looking at maybe 2/5, 2/6 at most. So I thought, okay, well, he's really cool for the move package, so why don't we buff him to 2 power every time somebody moves there? Then you could probably reliably get this card to 6, and you're seeing a pretty good return on this investment of moving cards to Kraven. And then possibly even more, right? That's only just saying if 3 cards make it over. Because you can't even just play the cards with Kraven. You have to literally move them. It requires setup and time. And there's just stuff that does it faster. So I'd like to see him get buffed. Another card I'd like to see get buffed is Ebony Maw. I think this is... I just said Kraven's the worst. I think Ebony Maw is the worst card. Even with this buff, I think it'd still be bad. Every time I've seen my opponent play it, they lose. Because I just feel like it's a gimme. So if you don't know what Ebony Maw does, is he you can, after you play him, you can't play a card in that lane, but you can't play him even from your hand if it's after turn 3. So you're just screwed. You can't play him after turn 3, and you can't play a card in that lane anymore afterwards. Anyways, I'm repeating myself, but it's just so bad. It's also confusing. So you have him in your hand, you're like, wait, can I? No, I can't. Why is he blacked out? I don't know what's going on. And the benefit is that he's 6 power for 1 mana, which is great, obviously. That's insane. Was the ratio video I did. You have a 1 to 2, that's a 50% increase. That's great. He's a 1/6, fantastic. I don't even know, 400%, 500%, I don't even know. But why don't we bring him up to 1 and 8? It's still not even that good when you have Novas exploding everywhere and Devil Dinos that do that hands down. So I think that the extra 2 power would be a layup, and he could use it, and he still wouldn't see play, but why not? Okay, Korg. So this is actually one of the ones I thought was the most interesting. Korg's kind of boring. He just, right now, he's a 1/2, and he throws a rock into your opponent's deck. Cool. There's a few cards that do that already, throwing rocks into decks, but there's nothing that really benefits from your opponent having rocks in their deck. That, I have a feeling, is going to come later, so bookmark this idea, because I bet there's going to be a card with this in the future. But I was thinking, what if he had ongoing +2 power for each rock in your opponent's deck? So Korg could become like this, like 1 mana 6, 8, 10. Who knows? If you can really stuff a lot of rocks, there's a few locations that would benefit this. There's 2 cards off the top of my head that generate rocks in your opponent's deck. So why don't we just kind of pull things together and make an actual benefit of shoving cards into your opponent's deck? And then you would know if they drew one, because they would have their hand, and then they draw a rock, and then Korg would lose 2 power. So it's like, ooh, he just drew a dead card. Kind of gives information as well. So I thought that would be a really fun change to Korg. He'd definitely see play. There'd become a new type of deck to create, a rock deck. Fun. Sounds great to me. It's already kind of set up in the game to be there, so why not? And then